started anyway, and maybe Kate's husband will come and rescue us and get it fixed up so that we can actually show the PowerPoint, but we'll get started anyway. Good evening, everybody. I'm Julie Lang with the Historical Society, and I'm the volunteer director of the Taylor No. 4 Country School, just about a block over this way. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's program about the Liscomb No. 6 stage curtain, and I'm sure you've all taken note of how beautiful that is. The colors are so vivid, it's hard to believe that it's as old as it is, and it's been kept outside all these years, and it still is really in excellent condition.
Not outside.
What?
It's not outside.
Oh, okay, I meant not in a heated building, was it? Well, it was not in a heated building or air conditioning. Yeah. So it survived pretty well.
It hasn't been restored.
Right. And if you need the restroom, it's right back here to your left. You'll see it as you go back in the hallway.
I only charge a small fee.
And on the wall back here, behind Craig, he's recording this for Iowa Valley. On the wall are the articles about the school from 1988 and 1996. And then the big chart shows you how I dated the curtain to the year that we dated it to, 1936 or 1937. And then the big horizontal picture is just one that doesn't have anything to do with this topic, but it was from Liscomb Consolidated School, and it's a really neat photo because it's got some school buses in it too, so you might want to check that out. And please help yourself to refreshments all during the program anytime you want, because I've got lots more underneath the table that have to come out yet, so you have to eat what's on the table first. Okay, recently the Vry family from Liscomb gave their country school stage curtain to the Historical Society. And do you suppose we could have the Vry brothers stand up? And sisters, Vry brothers and sisters. All right. And we hopefully will hear from at least some of them in a little bit.
One.
Okay, and he's...
We have one that's in the nursing home.
Yeah, he couldn't make it, could he? Yeah, Dale.
He's here in spirit.
Okay, well anyway, we really appreciate your generosity, and we'll preserve it so that everyone can enjoy it for years to come. Country schools played a huge part in our history. They formed the basis of our country's educational system for rural children in the 19th and first half of the 20th centuries. Most schools held programs for the families and neighbors of the pupils. This Christmas program was usually a highlight of the year. Perhaps one of the former Liscomb No. 6 students will tell us about their programs in a few minutes. I'm sure you have some memories of those. During those programs, sheets were usually used to separate the audience from the performers. And since we might not get to see our PowerPoint, I drug out a few photos that I happen to have that would be on the PowerPoint. So I'll just kind of start over here and pass them around. This one shows just the wire that was strung across the ceilings of the most country schools. Okay, during these programs, sheets were used to separate the audience from the performers. Bessie Weatherby, a parent, recalled, "The curtains for the programs to form a stage were provided by the mothers of the pupils, who sent bed sheets with a goodly supply of safety pins, pinning the sheets to a wire stretched across the front of the room. The pupils were assigned the task of pulling the curtain." A Timber Creek No. 2 teacher, Fern Stevenson Gruelle. Oh, by the way, if you know any of these teachers that I'm quoting, holler when I say their name. Fern Gruelle said, "The children helped me fix a stage using many sheets to slide on a stretched wire. Imagine my disgust when the morning of the program the sheets were on the floor. They seem to have been used for a party of sorts during the night. Unseen visitors were a problem as the school building was between two railroads and attracted unwanted visitors." And then Dale Salasic, the LeGrand No. 3 pupil, he recalled, "A big activity was the Christmas program. We had a wire across the front of the room and curtains that would slide to make a stage. I'll always remember when I was in 8th grade, I was ready with my parts memorized, and I came down with the measles. I couldn't be in the program." However, if you were really lucky, like our students that are here tonight, our grown-up students, you may have had a beautiful hand-painted stage curtain like Liscomb No. 6 had. It was rolled up and hung from the ceiling when not being used for programs. Wires or ropes on one side of the curtain raised and lowered it. Was it a curtain or a wire? Do you guys remember?
Rope.
Rope. Okay, change that.
Cord.
Cord. Okay, a cord. Okay, the 15 by 9 foot curtain features a lovely river landscape surrounded by 30 merchant advertisements. The paint is glue based. Liscomb ads are Smalls Service Station, clear down here at the bottom from Liscomb, and the Liscomb Independent Oil Company, right over here. And then the Conrad ads are the Bells Brothers, Lumber, Grain, and Coal. And, okay, and the Allen Oil Company, yeah, Quality Petroleum Products. And then the E.R. Murphy down here, and this is John Deere Quality Farm Implements. The others are from Marshalltown.
What? Richie got it.
Well, actually, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Yeah. I found out a little about that. The others are from Marshalltown. Which ones are still in business today?
Swifts.
Swifts? Yep.
Farm Bureau.
Okay.
Ever drink Bailey Boys Pop?
Richie.
Richie? Uh-huh.
Estel.
Estel? Yeah.
Different name.
Those are the only ones I could find with those four. I don't know if there's more or not. Okay. Oh, and I do have handouts. I guess I could pass those out, huh? Here is a handout that lists all of the stage curtains. And who would like to pass those out for me? Any takers? Thank you, Bob.
Just like the store.
Yeah, he's a good helper.
Oh, hello. Is that your job?
The billing for Ritchie Industries, which is right here,
Great, yes.
lists its home as Marshalltown. Ritchie was first located in Marshalltown, according to Cliff Wilson, whose father, C.D. Wilson, bought the business in 1943 when it was located on a farm between Marshalltown and Conrad. Wilson then moved the company to Conrad. Do I have that right? Okay. Okay, now if you take a look to the right of the river at optometrist Dr. D.J. Sherrott's ad, and it states, "No drops used." Anybody know what that's referring to?
Say that again. No, what?
No drops used. He's an optometrist.
He didn't die. Oh, in his eye.
It means he didn't dilate. Oh, okay. Our curtain appears to be from 1936 or 1937. I used the city directories to find the merchants listed and cross-reference them with their phone numbers and addresses. By 1939, 4-digit phone numbers were being used. Does anyone remember that time when it switched from 3 to 4 digits?
4877, yes.
You remember, okay? Ha, that's pretty good to remember the number, Linda. Okay, this beautiful curtain does have a mystery surrounding it, however. Who painted it?
What now?
Who got the merchants to agree to the ads? Who paid whom? I didn't know if that was who paid who or who paid whom, but anyway. One possibility is that it could have been funded by a Depression-era program such as the WPA, the Works Progress Administration. The Federal Art Project Number 1 was part of the WPA, and from 1935 to 1943, it employed some 10,000 artists. Stage curtains like this one are very rare. This is the only one I know of in Marshall County. I visited with 2 former Marshall County country school teachers, Marjorie Havens Butters. Yes, I knew people would know Marjorie. And Mary Noel Etker. Anybody know Mary? Okay. They attended or taught, here's another one to pass out. Thank you, I'm going to work you hard. They attended or taught at 6 schools each, and neither one of them had ever heard of stage curtains like this, painted stage curtains. They had only encountered the sheets, the bed sheets. So they were very, very rare. And they said again about the wire, it was already hanging at the schools when they went there the first day, and then they were in charge of finding some sheets to put up with safety pins. There's only 10 other painted stage curtains that I know about in Iowa, and we might hear about some of those in a little bit from some of our other speakers. And ours that was donated is in wonderful condition. The Vry family has taken good care of it for close to 61 years. 61 years sound about right?
Close enough.
Okay. And they're now entrusting it to us. And here is a picture A couple of stage curtains that are in Iowa. This first one is from Kelowna. Second one is from Traer. And third one is from Boland, which is northeast of Mason City. After we received this gift, thank you, no, you're not done. We knew that we needed some expert advice on how to preserve and hang the curtain. Pete Sixby from the State Historical Society came to look at it. He proclaimed it one of the nicest curtains he'd ever seen. He recommended that we have it professionally evaluated at the Midwest Art Conservation in Minneapolis. We've contacted them and are waiting for their visit to see the curtain. They thought it would be this summer yet. The curtain is here temporarily while it gets evaluated, and we prepare a permanent home for it at the museum. We are going to hang it in what is now the fossil room. And donations received tonight will help with those expenses. And the fossil room, if you'll remember having been there upstairs at the museum, it looks like it's not big enough, but it is like a half an inch wider than the stage curtain. So it's going to be tight, but we'll make it. And it won't be the fossil room anymore after that, of course. The curtain, okay, I said that, didn't I? Our curtain is from the Liscomb No. 6 school, which was several miles southeast of Liscomb. It first appeared on the 1885 map. Notice it there, not. And then again on the 1907 and 1924 maps. Notice that in 1924, it was on the J.L. Rawls property. Do you know what year your dad bought the land?
Gloria.
Is that what you need?
Maybe she can fix it. They brought a cord in.
Well, Fry's bought it in 1959? 49? Okay. 1949, thank you. Okay. We couldn't find any photos of Liscomb No. 6, but John described it to me, and it sounds like it was like the most common, ordinary country school you could see. It didn't have shutters, had one door on the front, no windows on the front. On the side, it had 4 windows. Anyway, it was just a real ordinary school. Would you guys agree with that? Okay.
No running water.
Yeah. Did have 2 outhouses, though. And then I had a couple pictures to show you of some schools that were real similar. And then we've got the original site of the school. So now it's a nice looking field, and we'll pass that around. And then I've got a picture of the school now. And you won't recognize it probably. Looks like a big building. But what the Frys did you guys help your dad when he cut the school in half?
Uncle,
Your uncle, okay. But anyway, they cut the school in half and put, I believe it was an 18-foot addition in the middle, 24-foot addition in the middle. So the ends of this building are the original school. And the original school was just a stone's throw from the Vry farmstead. Teachers in the latter years included Mrs. Hanson, Mrs. Myrtle Hilseback, and Mrs. Jeannie Lively. The Vry brothers, John, Ralph, Chuck, and Dale, were students in the 1930s and 40s, along with Lyle and Billy Airy and the Hunt kids, Pauline, Marilyn, and Bob. Teacher Jeannie Lively wrote, "There were 4 little boys in school, total. 2 Vry boys and 2 Airy boys. Needless to say, the school closed that year." Yeah. No, of course not. They were perfectly behaved. After as many as 85 years of being a school, it met the same fate as most of the schools, well, all of the country schools in Marshall County. It was closed down. In the late 1940s, the schools then went to the students went to consolidated schools. In 1932, Iowa had over 9,000 one-room schools. In 1953, the Iowa law forming community school districts to include all the non-high school districts closed most country schools that were one-room schools. The Vry boys' father, Henry Vry, bought the building in 1954 and moved it about 1/8 of a mile to his farm. Is that wrong? Is that right? Okay. Well, just holler if it's not. I want to make the corrections. And they moved it about an eighth of a mile to his farm, which is at 2459 130th Street. It's just southeast of Liscomb. He and his sons cut the bill. I already did that and put the addition, and you said it was a 24-foot addition. Good. Part of the reason the curtain is in such good shape is because it was left alone, all rolled up and safe. It was displayed once in 1996 at the Country Inn in Conrad. A photo of the curtain was placed in the local newspaper. Georgia Smith of Marshalltown saw the photo. With her siblings, she wrote a letter to the editor of the paper saying that their father, artist Bert McGriff, painted this very curtain. At one time, his shop was on South First Avenue. Oh, here's Mr. McGriff. Two really nice photos of him that I got from Georgia. And then here is where his office was, or his shop. It was the second building from the left, the top floor. And of course, it's gone now.
It was in Liscomb?
No, in Marshalltown,
In
right
Marshall-
across the street east of the courthouse.
Oh.
Because McGriff's lived in Marshalltown,
How
yeah.
did he get out there? Did he ride the horse or have no buggy?
Well, George is going to talk to us in a minute. Maybe she'll know. Okay. And Georgia, now's, I guess, a good time. Would you mind coming up and telling us a little bit more? Come on up, Georgia.
Well, I'm Georgia Smith, and my father, Bert McGriff, painted this curtain. And when we saw that in the paper and they didn't know who had painted it, I knew immediately it was his work. And I had my brother and my three sisters look at it, and they all agreed. And then to be extra sure, I had my father's sister come and look at it, and she said, "Oh, it's definitely Bert's work." So anyhow, my father was born in 1899, and that seems like a long time ago, but and he died in 1940. He had a heart attack, and he was 41 years old when he died. But he grew up and went to school and was in Newton, Iowa, and he was always interested in art from the very beginning. When he was really young, he was interested in art. And when he was a young man, he took a cartoon drawing course. And so he had one of his cartoons was Henpecked Henry, and that was in the Newton Daily News. And also he had some political cartoons that were published there. He became interested in sign painting, and he followed that trade until he died. And on his stationery, up in the corner of his stationery, why he had written in little letters, "We made signs before we could talk." I thought that was kind of catchy. And he, shortly before he married my mother, he wrote her a letter, which I have. And he told her that he was preparing a billboard for a silver fox farm. And the billboard was to be 8 feet by 16 feet. Well, this is 8 feet by 15 feet, so you can get an idea of the size of the billboard. But he told her that he was supposed to paint a silver fox on this billboard that would take up 2/3 of the billboard. And so he said, "That's going to be a mighty big fox that I'm painting." And he also mentioned in the same letter that he was painting 2 banners for some shows, and I couldn't. The ink was so faint in the letter in that part that I couldn't read what they were for. But he married Jeanette Townsend of Garwin, Iowa, in February of 1927. And to this union, 5 children were born, 4 daughters and 1 son. And he set up his shop. Well, he moved to Marshalltown in 1930, and he set up his shop on South First Avenue. It would be across the street from the courthouse. and it was upstairs. A lot of stairs up to it, I remember. Anyhow, at that time, neon signs were around, but they weren't very widely used. And hand-painted billboards and shop windows and signs, they were considered a highly valued skill, and they were literally the main way to go at that time. Sign painters have to be three things. They have to be a designer and an artist and a contractor. I used to watch him sometimes when he would bring home at night small signs to work on in the basement in our house on West State Street. And I would sit on the basement stairs about halfway up where I could watch him paint. And I loved to watch him paint. And sometimes he would stop and he would draw me on a little piece of paper like a Mickey Mouse or some other cartoon character. And I really cherished those, and I sure wish I still had them. But he painted a sign for the new swimming pool in Riverside Park, which would later be called Apgar Pool, and is now a tennis court. And they gave him free or some family passes to go swimming for the family to use. And he also painted for a theater in Marshalltown, and they also gave him family passes for the family to use. Our mother would mention sometimes, oh, well, your dad painted for such and such, and one of them was Bailey Boys Pop and Estill Funeral Home, and I remember Morrell's Bookstore she mentioned, and George Paint and Wallpaper. Remnants of bygone painting you can see on the facade of brick buildings. It used to be they'd have signs, just advertising the business or whatever. And the only one that I know of that's left in Marshalltown is right across the street at Sit and Sleep. Sit and Sleep used to be a J.C. Penney's store. And if you look on the west wall up there way high, you can see department store written up there in big white letters on the side, on the west side of that building. It's up high. You have to get out a ways and look at it, but it has department store, and that's the only one that I know of in Marshalltown that's left where they've painted on. One of the things that painters are doing now that I think is really nice and something I enjoy is they will paint on the sides of buildings, entire side of a building, historic things about a city or maybe about a business. And I think Marshalltown has a wonderful example in their Zeno's Pizza. I think whoever did that did a marvelous job, and it has Marshalltown State Bank on the side, and also Henry Pappy's clothing and furniture store, and it also has a hardware store in the back, and Lyric Theater, and it's advertising T. Nelson Downs, King of Coins, and I know he came to Marshalltown at one time. And also there is a painting of the United States Post Office, which was built in 1895. And that used to be on Center Street across from the Presbyterian Church. I remember it well because it had so many steps up to it. We don't have a lot of my father's things because I think when he died suddenly at age 41, and my mother had so many things to think about then that she had someone clean out his shop. And I think probably a lot of things that we might have kept, we don't have. So, but I want to thank the Vry family so much for donating this to the Historic Society. I really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how happy I was when Julie called me and said that they had done this. And it made my day and my week. So thank you. That's all I have.
Lettering,
Yeah,
and not so much pictures. I mean,
no,
I see
no, not
as
no,
a parent,
no,
it's
not
got a
so.
picture.
No, it's more commercial.
More the words.
Yeah, more the words, right, and the name of the store and that type
And
of
what
thing, right.
kind of store.
I think if you did some billboards, there might have.
Like the
yeah,
Silver
right,
Fox.
like the Silver Fox. And speaking of the Silver Fox Farm, I had to look up what a Silver Fox was, I didn't know. And, they were apparently a black fur with a kind of a silver streak in it. But apparently it was very highly, they really, for, at that time, when they had a lot of fur coats and,
Yeah.
that they really prized that, silver fox fur, so they had to be bred, I think. They
Yeah,
couldn't,
How did he come to pick out this school? Because 2 miles east of there was another country schoolhouse.
Oh, there is.
There was.
Oh, there was, oh, really?
Then 2 miles south.
The other pictures, he liked mountains and water, painted them.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you look at the other pictures, water's
Yeah, I probably.
Well, it's a real mystery as to how this curtain and Burt McGriff and Liscomb number 6 all came together, but we might learn a little bit more about that in a little bit from another speaker here. I think we have all of the former Liscomb number 6 students except Dale. Is that right? Here tonight?
And Billy.
He passed away, right? Okay, so Billy passed away, but all of the living ones are here except Dale. That's pretty neat.
well, no, wait,
Is there another?
Rick Hibbs, he went there. Not Rick, Dick Hibbs.
No, Shirley.
Pauline go there?
Were there, Tim?
She went there.
Shirley Hibbs is still, okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Pauline went one year.
okay, Pauline, yeah, she lives where, in Oklahoma City?
No, Rockwell City.
Rockwell City, okay, yeah. Well, we got most of them anyway then.
Carolyn was in Oklahoma.
Okay, okay.
You don't think she
But
went?
I don't think she went.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. Anyway, want to especially thank John Vry. He's been the catalyst in donating the family's curtain here. And he even gave me a tour of the old school grounds and his old farmstead. We had a good time, as well as sharing some of those stories. John has agreed to tell you some of his school memories tonight, if that's still okay, John. It's my pleasure to introduce John Vry.
Well, there's one thing for sure, we didn't have running water.
Yeah, we're
And
up on the hill and got.
Up on the hill and getting carried to school. And there was always some catalogs in the restrooms outside, so there wasn't no toilet paper. And a lot of times in the wintertime when it was snow, well, we lived on one hill and the area family lived on the other hill, and we went down the hill on our sleds to the schoolhouse. But it was very interesting. I don't know how many people remember R.C. Ringo was our county superintendent at that time. And he come visited all the country schools every so often, make sure we was all straightened out. And from where we went to school, there was another country school 2 miles east of us, right on Highway 14 and 130th Street right there. And then there was one off up north a little ways, and there on just off the Liscomb Road too. And it was interesting. And at the later years, the teacher decided that we'd all chip in and consolidate our foods together. And one day one family would bring food in, and the next day another family would. We rotated that off, so we didn't have to bring dinner buckets. So it was interesting, and us 6 was the main ones that went to school there because where we lived. But at that time, there was a country farmstead every mile apart or so, and we had a lot of them that moved in one year, and the next year they was moved out, and it changed a lot too. So
Were your teachers male or female?
The ones we had were all female ladies.
Were they married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were?
How many students were
There
attending the school
There-
most of the years that you were?
There was an average of
Six to
about
eight.
6 because, like I said, there was many country farmsteads out there that every mile apart there was somebody that they moved in and out with maybe they were a year and gone and they weren't all there that long. And every about the end of the school year, well, teacher always took us on a little tour going someplace, and there's one I never will forget was Mrs. Hampton from Gladbrook. And we got in her car and we headed over toward the Gladbrook Lake, and something happened and she didn't shift her car like she should have going up this hill, and she killed it, and we was going backwards down this hill and there was a lake behind us. I'll never forget that. So anyway, we got stopped before we got to the water. So it was interesting. One thing I do remember, we had one teacher that the last period of the day was penmanship, and we had to write something out all the time, and if we did something wrong, you wrote it 100 times on a sheet of paper. So it was interesting. Yeah.
Where'd you get the wood for the stores, for the stove?
Well, we had some volunteers in that too,
We
and
had a
it
lot of coal though.
had a lot of coal. We burnt mostly coal, yeah,
Coal instead of wood?
yeah. And every end of the day or so, we had a hallway in the school there, and we would pile our wood and coal inside where it was out of the weather for the furnace to burn. So that and this curtain here, I did pull it up and down a number of times when we had a program or something to go. So it was interesting. So
Did you have books and workbooks and crayons and chalk and
Yeah.
pencils? You had all those.
we had a chalkboard on behind the curtain there.
Green or black?
Do what?
Green or black?
They were black, weren't they, Lyle?
Black.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, the curtain was hung across the end of the school, right? Was there a raised stage? Some of the schools have raised stages.
It was raised about this much, yeah. Yeah, the stage was about this high off of the main floor.
And it was
Yeah.
across the end of the room too?
It was on the end of the school building there, yeah.
Was the teacher's desk on that normally, or?
Well, it was a teacher desk was one that was movable around, so it,
Did you move the desk out when you had a program?
well, we just moved it over against the sidewall and stuff like that. But at that time, for the more kids in that were at the school, it wasn't no big crowd, so.
Good thing we only got 4 adults.
In 1942 or 43, I don't remember quite what year it was, but the county superintendent come around and says, "We got a job for you people." Got any idea what it'd be?
Picking corn?
No,
Go out and pick up the milk pods.
okay.
They used the silver for
Yeah.
parachutes. We thought that was a big deal.
And that was for a military thing.
Take
They were
the tape out of them.
flat.
Yeah, yeah.
For Navy.
For mattresses.
And also, we picked up the milk pods, and we also went out and we at that time they growed hemp, and we cut hemp and we took it to Grundy Center and they made rope out of it for the military.
They use it different now.
Hmm?
They use it differently now.
A whole bunch different.
It's not the military.
So was the milk pod K-Pod for mattresses?
It was like they used the inside of it like for silk. For
They used them as flak jackets, like the Navy
Yeah.
guys and their gunners. they had flak jackets on to keep from being hit, you know, direct,
Oh,
and also parachutes.
Bulletproof vests.
Parachutes.
I thought, I'd heard that they also made mattresses, because the extension home economist was teaching people how to make mattresses out of the,
At,
Out of milkweed.
yeah, out of the milkweed, well, out of the
I
fluff.
know, I'm jumping, yeah, I'm a lot for that.
well, how I remember most is, on it is, we done it for the military when they were in service. That's how I remember them
Did you ever collect the
most.
copper pennies? Some of the schools collected copper pennies for the military to make bullets and stuff.
I don't remember about that part. no.
Got a penny expended.
John, do you remember the transition when you went into a consolidated school then? Was it pretty tough since you came from such a small
I
school?
do,
Well-
but I was half a year behind.
It was a totally different ballgame when we went to country school to the consolidated school. Whole new ballgame.
Longer walk.
Yeah. Did you think you were behind academically the town classmates, or were you pretty much at the same level with them?
Well, the friendship was good, but it was, our level of education was lower than at that time. And I hate to say it, but some of us, we had to stay and make 2 years out of one grade.
To catch up.
Yeah, we had to use that for catch-up time.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a choice, and
Yeah.
so,
It
but
wasn't a fault
that
of
was a
anybody's.
change in times, and that's what you live with, and so you go from there, so.
So you knew many of the students in the consolidated school because you went to church or had other social interaction with them?
Well, our level of education was totally different. I mean, it was a little higher than what we was at the country school.
We didn't
But I-
know any of the town kids.
Okay, you didn't know the town kids?
No, it was a whole new
I thought
ballgame on the
maybe
kids.
you attended the same church
But
or,
as far as relationship, we all accepted each other very
Okay.
good, I thought, so.
Well, thank you very much, John.
You're welcome. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and we saved it, and
You done a
I
great
hope it's
job.
there for a good many years for everybody to see.
John, here's a little certificate for you to have something to remember this night.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
I would like to thank you.
And how about Chuck? Did you want to say a few words?
One of the things I remember, we was on top of the hill and we didn't have any traffic those days. Sometimes we'd carry water and dump it on the hill so we could ride our sled all the way down to the schoolhouse. We had a big sled and the three of us brothers, we could get on that, and sometimes we missed the schoolhouse.
How about you, Bob? Do you have anything you want to talk to us about?
I don't have a whole lot.
Do you remember the curtain?
Yes, I do. That I do.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah, did you know that it was so unusual that you probably had the only one in the county?
Well, we had one in the school I was at before, in Lynn number 1, here in Marshalltown, out by Bob's Feed and Supply.
That had one.
That later, and I remember it as being a lot of trees on either side and a pathway that, I mean, it just looked like you could get up and walk on it.
So was it similar to this?
I don't think there was as much advertisement on
Not as much. Okay.
Bob,
it. It was just,
Bob, is this the first time you've seen it since it's country school?
yes, yes. It's more beautiful now than I can remember. But I remember, I used to sing at PTA meetings the first year I was in school.
Huh.
And it was all patriotic songs. And it was, it really meant a lot to the guys that are here, because we know what World War II was like.
How many veterans do we have here tonight? Vets? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah? That's great. Okay.
Julie,
Yes.
is the school that he's talking about, is the one that was on South 18th Avenue?
Yes.
That Head Start used
Mm-hmm.
for several years?
Gladys Montgomery was our
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
teacher.
okay,
Yeah.
well,
Head Start used, yeah.
Then it later became,
Pleasant Hill?
no, wasn't Pleasant Hill, it was Head Start. Because I worked for Area 6 as a communication aide and went out and worked with children in Head Start with Lenora Brown and Barb,
Yeah.
There was a Pleasant Hill out there too.
yeah,
Wall Jasper.
yeah, it was right there by
Yeah.
The feed
Barb.
feet,
Right.
just,
Yeah.
North
North,
of-
south of it. South of
no,
it.
north of the, right there by, you know where Sellers' house was, that great big mansion?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, it was just, south
Of
of that
that,
Sellers.
yeah, right. It had an upstairs and a and a main floor. There was no basement.
Uh-huh.
No.
And it's
No, there was
confusing
no
because there was a
basement.
Pleasant Hill school not far from that that did not become Pleasant Hill, so.
Yeah, right, but no, this was definitely Head Start.
Okay. And then what became of it after it was Head Start?
I think they took it down.
Okay.
We moved from down here
Then
in
Head
44.
Start went to Palmer School, or the other school.
Okay, yeah.
Lenore Brown could give you more
Okay.
history.
I've got her down here. Researching Marshall County country schools is one of my passions. I've been collecting information and copying photos so that I can edit a book on the subject because we haven't had one published ever. So if you know of anyone who could help me out either with photos or someone I could interview about their country school, please let me know. I've already interviewed, probably 30 people, but I'd like to get more in there. When I can't find the information I need, I turn to Bill Sherman from Des Moines. He's the go-to man for country school buffs in Iowa and in the United States. Yeah, really. He's headed up a wonderful annual state conference for many years, Country School Conference. He authored the book Iowa's Country Schools, Landmark of Learning, and is a board member for the Country School Association of America. He even spearheaded the drive to put the country school imprint on our state quarters.
Oh,
Got that right? Okay, please join me in welcoming Bill.
Thank you, Julie. It's a real treat for me to be here tonight to see this beautiful stage curtain, and I want to thank the brothers for donating it, putting it in a place where everybody or anybody that's interested can look at this and see it and enjoy it. It is a real rare treasure. I'll talk a little bit about the evolution of these curtains. Had an interesting book that was published in 1993, kind of focusing on the history of opera houses in Iowa. And in my mind, this curtain is really, it's an opera house style stage curtain that ended up in a country school. If somebody asked me how many stage curtains were there or are there in Iowa country schools, my response is about 15. We've been able to identify 13. And I assume that maybe we still have a couple, 2 or 3, or maybe more that are hidden away in somebody's barn or somebody's basement that hasn't been unrolled for years, but I assume we still have a few yet to be discovered. Somebody asked about who initiated, how did Liscomb get a nice curtain like this, but the school down the road didn't. My hunch is that somebody connected to the school, probably a school board member, decided this would be a good way of raising some revenue for the school. So they probably contacted the painter, the artist that lived in Marshalltown, and said, we will sell advertising to some of the merchants in the area. Will you come out and paint a stage curtain for us? Now again, I can't definitive say that's the way it happened, but that's my hunch based on the little information that I've been able to glean. Some of the stage curtains had a much bigger illustration in the middle, but then not as many ads. So the people connected to Liscomb number 6 did a good job of contacting local merchants. And these are very nice printed ads. I'm sure the merchants were satisfied with the final product and felt that they got their money's worth. Even though you didn't have a lot of kids going to Liscomb number 6, you had special events at the school, you had Christmas programs, you had adults coming into the school throughout the school year, and so they got good exposure. Each one of these merchants got good exposure with the stage curtain.
Sir,
Yes.
when I had that down, the yard took it, Charlie Hibbs, and I think Wayne Stackhouse was on the school board at that time, and Charlie Hibbs did come over and look at it.
Okay.
He was in charge of it,
Okay.
but I never wanted to follow that.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing that Mr. Hibbs or Mr. Stackhouse may have decided. I don't know where. I mean, there weren't very many stage curtains in country schools for them to look at, but most of the opera houses in Iowa, just about every opera house, had a stage curtain. The opera houses kind of were built in Iowa from about 1850 to 1915. And at one time, according to the authors of this book, we had more than 1,000 opera houses in Iowa. Just about every town of any size. And they've identified 5 different opera houses in Marshalltown. And as I said, the opera houses had the nice stage curtains, but very rare in country schools. And it's been my impression that the country schools that had the stage curtains also had the little raised elevated stage. Maybe there were some that didn't have a stage. It still had a nice stage curtain, but that's my impression, that you had a stage, and this was a way of kind of showing off the stage. How rare are the stage curtains? As I said, I tell people 15. We know 13. Julie, Gloria Hawkins from Kansas City, and I have done as much research as we can, and we know of 13, but 5 of those aren't on display. There's problems, they're rolled up, and so we have fewer than 7 country school stage curtains that people can see. The closest ones to Marshalltown are in Boone County. They have 3, but only 2 of them are on display. One is at the Mackey School, which is a little community center north of Boone, and then there is one in the Boone County Historical Society, a nice stage curtain, probably about the size of this one, and that's on display. And if some of you want to learn more about country school stage curtains, that's going to be a major focus at our conference in October. That's going to be, well, we're going to start out at the Iowa Arboretum Center near Madrid and have a program there during the day, and then we're going to have a program Friday evening at the Boone County Historical Building, which is an old historic Masonic hall, so you could see a stage curtain there. And then on Saturday morning, we're going to do a tour of area preserved country schools, and we're going to visit the Mackey School. So you'll be able to see 2 more nice stage curtains in Boone in October, and we're going to twist Julie's arm, and we're going to get that PowerPoint presentation working, so she can share the PowerPoint presentation with other people that will attend the conference. Maybe that's enough for me for now, but if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Gloria?
This curtain was also in some states.
I'm not aware of any Granges in Iowa that had these.
It wasn't unusual for Granges to have them. In fact, one particular one that I found a photo of, they had left the center blank, and it was a later one, and they used it to project movies on, but they still had the ads around.
Okay, so they used it as a movie screen in addition to a stage curtain. I tried Gloria Hawkins, who has been taking photographs, is really the expert on stage curtains. She's photographed stage curtains in what, 50 schools?
No. I've done them in, I don't remember how many schools, but I've done them in 6 states.
6 states.
6 states, and it's usually right down through the center. It's Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado.
Okay.
That's the only place I found them. Now, I did find a photo in New Mexico, of an old vintage photo, and I've not found a curtain there, but that's just the main area that had the curtains. And I'm not really sure, I probably have about 30 curtains that I've photographed.
And
Are
so,
they all on
Yes.
canvas like this?
Yes, it's on lightweight canvas or muslin, and it's a water-based paint, so that's why a lot of them have not held out very well. And tomorrow I'm going to Nebraska, and I'm gonna photograph about 4 in Nebraska tomorrow.
so far, Iowa has more country school stage curtains than any other state, so
I
I'm
think
glad.
we're probably tied with Texas.
Okay, we're tied for Texas, so we got to find at least 2 more in Iowa then, so,
I have a hunch or a sense that these businesses were somehow affiliated with the railroads. And the states that you just identified would kind of substantiate that this was a practice that the railroads would use to probably lure business and communities to develop as their railroads develop.
right, I think that's probably a good assumption. But again, somebody had to initiate it, and my hunch is it was somebody connected to the school that said this would be a good way for us to raise some money, because I really don't have a feel how much each of these merchants paid for the ad. But each of these merchants did pay the school, and, well, probably paid the school, and then the school paid the artist to do the painting. So it was a way of generating revenue for the school.
In one schoolhouse in Lawrence, Kansas, the lady that showed me the curtain, let me photograph it, her husband was the superintendent, and he sold the ads for $5 each.
Okay, $5 each. Well,
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
yes, it was a lot of money, but it really was a good investment for the merchant, because this curtain has lasted 80 years.
But one of them I photographed, if you didn't pay $5 every year, they painted you off.
Okay, so you had, it was an annual contract then. Well,
You got painted off, and sometimes you'd see them, it would just be blank because they didn't pay, so.
right. And maybe a new merchant could come on then. If one didn't pay, we could get a new one to come in, yeah.
The curtains you get, you're coming in or have had, did you have to restore them?
Yes, let me talk just a minute about the curtain, and that was in one of the pictures that I think Gloria had taken, or maybe Julie, from the Boland School. A young woman, what's her, Lori Willard. She's a tremendous person. They had the curtain that was in the Boland School in Northwood in the historical building. They didn't want to let that curtain go back to the Boland School. And so what Lori did, she agreed to help preserve, went through the logistics of getting this curtain preserved, and then made a duplicate. And the duplicate, which probably looks better than the restored curtain, hangs in the Boland School today. And then the other original is in the County Historical Society in Northwood. What?
It's in the school, it's up there in the school.
Oh, I guess that's right. I guess they have both the preserved curtain in the school rolled up and then the duplicate. And the duplicate is the one that's on display.
The interesting thing about I'm sorry about taking over, but the
No,
interesting
that-
thing about the duplicate is it's digitally printed. They printed it on a digital printer, and that just amazed me because you have to walk up to it and touch it to know it's not looking
Right.
exactly
It,
like
it almost looks better probably than the
Well, it's in
original.
better shape.
Right. But to answer your question, if I remember correctly, it's something like $8,000 to $10,000 to get the Boland curtain restored. And I don't think the Boland curtain was in nearly as good a condition as this curtain is. And Pete has said that too, Pete Sixby. So it shouldn't, although again, this is 10 or 12 years later, but it shouldn't cost that much to do the little bit of restoration at the top. But it is expensive, depending on the condition of the curtain to get it put back together. But it's well worth the money. I mean, only 7 or 8 of these are on display in Iowa that you could see. So it's pretty valuable, pretty important, and again, it's a recognition of how all of these merchants were willing to support a little one-room school with fewer than 10 students. So it's a piece of Iowa history.
Yeah, what would something like this be estimated for evaluation on it?
I don't know how you could evaluate it. I mean, it's something that can't be replaced.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's priceless.
I would say it's priceless, yeah.
It's only valuable to us.
Well, no, it's valuable to other people that care about country schools and Iowa history, and
It'll stay in Marshall County.
yeah, we want to keep it in Marshall County, very definitely. But it is a statewide treasure from my perspective, because it's in as good a condition without any restoration as any country school stage curtain that I've seen. I mean, this is in wonderful condition. It's 80 years old. So,
Be like laying up
right. So these gentlemen did a nice job of preserving it. Even though they probably didn't set out to do it, they did it. So it's in very good condition. Well,
What building was it in? It was in the block building, wasn't it, for a while?
And then they put it in the garage.
In the garage, in the machine?
Yeah, the garage up above there,
It's not here.
they got it down and they wrapped it in plastic, put it back up or.
There you go. Yep.
well, it's a good thing you wrapped it in plastic.
The fact that you put it up high was really smart.
Right.
Yeah, so other things couldn't get.
Yeah.
But again, I think you deserve all the accolades we could give for willing to donate that and put it in a place where it will be secure and hopefully be able to be preserved for another 80 years.
Yeah, more people will look at besides this.
Right. Well, it's a real treasure. Well, we could go on, but Julie probably. I don't know if any of you have been to Taylor number 3 lately, but it is one of the nicest country school preserved museums in Iowa. And I saw that school maybe 20 years ago before Julie had a chance to start working on it, and it was a nice school, but it was kind of cluttered, and everybody had donated this and that, and it didn't interpret a time period, and she's really retooled the whole building and made it a delightful place for children and adults that want to learn about country schools, a delightful place to visit. key location next to the county courthouse, easy to find. So we need to thank Julie for the effort she's made with Taylor number 3, and she'd probably like to have this curtain in Taylor number 3, but there isn't room, and she's got right, and she's got her artifact from the early 1900s on display, and that fits better. And again, this curtain didn't come in that school, so. But Julie, thank you for inviting me to come, and it was fun to see this curtain.
And those kind words were wonderful, but it wasn't just me that did that school, you know, it was the whole Historical Society and then all the wonderful people in the county that contributed money and service and volunteer hours. It was really great. Then I wondered if Gloria, we're so glad to have you here tonight, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Well, I've kind of been interrupting everybody.
Yeah, well, but if you have, maybe if you come up here, we can throw a few more questions at you. But anyway, as Bill said, Gloria is the person who knows more about stage curtains than probably anyone in the United States. Yeah, so we are so thrilled. She came all the way from Kansas City to see our curtain and to hear a little bit about it. So take it away, Gloria.
Gloria, what's her last name?
Hawkins.
Hawkins, sorry.
I don't know that I know so much about it, but I have been researching and photographing. Well, I've been photographing one-room schoolhouses for 17 years, but curtains probably for about 10. And what I found out is that most people have them, don't know what a treasure they have, and people that don't have them are just totally surprised. They don't even know these things exist. And I've photographed many different ones, and like you just said, this is probably in one of the best shapes. I've only seen one in better shape than this one because it didn't have the little bit of damage at the top. But a lot of them are almost in shreds. I mean, they've hung and they're split, or the ends of the pipe is off and they're frayed and everything. So it's a really wonderful curtain. If you have any questions, I don't know really what you want to know about the curtains.
This is canvas.
It's a lightweight canvas or muslin, just what they were painted on, and they were painted with a water-based paint. And so that's why a lot of them have faded if they've been left rolled down in a schoolhouse. Or one particular one that I photographed was in an empty school, and it had been hung down all the time, and so the bottom had frayed off of it. And then insects and different animals can get into them and mess them up. And
So this must have been like a drop cloth, because muslin and canvas is not this wide.
you know, I don't know. I have seen some that have seams in them.
Okay,
This looks like all one piece.
I can't really tell without getting up.
No, I don't see any seams in this, but I have some that would be seamed in 3 pieces.
So it could have
There might be
been,
a seam in the middle there, right by the corn belt, there are those lines. One down
This
the
feels
right.
like a little bit of a seam right here.
Down, there's another one right down, right beside you.
So
right
it-
here,
yeah.
looks like.
Yeah.
I
There's
just
a
wondered,
seam there.
because fabric,
And they've held together.
generally speaking, is not in widths,
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before.
It is.
what, a drop cloth?
They're 110 width fabric, so
Okay.
that's not, you can still get it.
Okay.
And this is a large one. I mean, it usually went across the end of the school, so according to how big the school was, this is a really wide one. A lot of them I've seen are maybe, 2/3 that big or whatever, so it would, they obviously made them to fit what area they had.
But it would have been, for example, if you were going to print a design to make a drape or something like that, then it would have been this big. Could have been this big.
And I think this is, I've seen ones that are triple width, and I think they started out with this 110
Okay.
wide fabric and then
Okay.
worked off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but back in those days, could have got it that big.
Well,
Well-
no, unless you had a theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
why I
they'd
wondered
make
if it
big
was
ones.
a drop cloth, like painters use,
I thought it was canvas myself.
well, or canvas, even so, to make a sail. I mean,
Yeah.
on a boat, not
Yeah.
I was just curious the size of the fabric.
The one, the Whiting Theater in Toledo.
No.
Yeah, it's been beautifully restored, and they have a huge.
Really. Well, I know Iowa has the largest collection of opera curtains.
And that would be an opera type.
Yeah, of anywhere. And this is an opera curtain. This is in the category of opera curtains. But like I said earlier, a lot of Granges had them. It wasn't unusual for a Grange, and a lot of them that I have tracked down to photograph, I thought they were from a school, and I find out they were Grange curtains. So.
Gloria, tell them about the collection at Mount Pleasant a little bit.
Well, you're probably more able to talk about that than I am.
The largest collections, I think, probably in the world of opera house stage curtains is at the Theater Museum at the old Threshers Complex in Mount Pleasant. They have, I believe, more than 40 of these opera house stage curtains hanging on
You can
rollers.
look at them.
So it's possible for you to go to that theater museum and look at maybe 30, 40 different styles of stage curtains, and they're from, not just from Iowa, but other parts of the United States. So that's the largest collection, and then the second largest that I know of, the librarian, or several librarians up in Riceville, Iowa, a little town up by Osage, were able to save opera house stage curtains in Riceville, and they have 4 or 5 that were used in different opera house buildings in Riceville, and they're on display in the library in Riceville. So those are the 2 best places in Iowa to look at stage curtains that I know about.
How old would they be then?
Well, again, they would be probably as old as these.
I think the oldest one I've seen is 100 years old.
Yeah, 70 to 100 years old are the ones in Mount Pleasant.
And there's quite a variety. Like some of them have a lot more of the curtains painted on them with fringe and very almost gaudy looking. One of them I photographed in Texas actually had a valance that went across the top, and it had all kind of fringe painted on it. I have photographed ones that have, one of them was political ads around here. It was, for lieutenant governor and whatever. So it's just a billboard. It's their billboards that they had. Another one that I have photographed has no scene in the middle. It's just all ads, and it's black and white or cream and white and black. I mean, there's no color to it, which is pretty boring. It's not beautiful like this. But there's just a really large variety, and I've told several people I found them in 6 states.
Gloria, tell them about the one at the hole.
Oh, I was photographing one in Oklahoma, and it had an oval hole at the top, and it wasn't a worn hole. It was all, fixed and turned under and I think glued down. And I said, well, what's the hole up there for? How'd that hole get in it? And they said, well, it just came that way. And I said, but why is it there? Well, that's where the stovepipe went through it from the stove. So, I was like, really?
Build it around the stove.
Yeah, so they had it made a hole in the curtain. And so there's all kind of interesting stories about curtains, just like there are about schools. And I love to meet the people that are involved. That's why I wanted to come up tonight and meet this family and meet the daughter of the artist and all, because I think that's what makes it all come to life, is to meet the people that are involved with it. So I am going to do it, as Bill was saying, at the conference in October 9th. In Boone, I have a PowerPoint presentation of all the curtains that I have photographed, and this one will be in it. I'm going to add that to it. And tomorrow I'm going to Nebraska and photograph about 4 or 5 more curtains in Nebraska. And so that I will be presenting that. And it's just quite interesting to see the difference. A lot of them have the mountain scenes, which is really interesting to me, because being from Kansas, we don't have mountains in Kansas, I don't know.
We don't have mountains in Iowa.
Yeah. And one of the ways they did it, there were catalogs, and the people could find the picture they wanted in a catalog, and the artists, the studios would paint the picture, and then they would paint all of these and leave them blank, and then they would send them out to the school, and then somebody else was responsible for selling the ads and painting the ads in. And some of them were actually painted by the students themselves of the schools, and they would change them every year. They would paint the scene different every year. And like I said, which I thought was really funny, that if you didn't pay your $5 on some of them, then you got painted off the curtain. So, there's all kind of stories that are involved with them. But I just find them really fascinating. And they were the largest piece of art in a lot of towns. I mean, just something this big, you know, people didn't have it any ways to have art like we have now, that you can see it on TV or you can, you know, go to an art museum. So this was one of the largest pieces of art in the town. So.
Gloria, I know you're about done. Would you tell everybody the story that you told a few about the one we saw earlier, the two parts?
Oh, I found, and this was in Iowa, and I think it turns out to be an opera curtain, not in a school, but I was in a little Iowa museum that was a machine shed type museum. And I'll get in there and I look on one wall and there's half of a curtain, and I look on the other wall and there's the other half of the curtain. And then in the middle it was cut out. And I said, the farmer was showing me, I said, what happened? He said, so-and-so, it was a cold winter and he needed a door for his pig shed, so he cut the center of the curtain out and had tacked it on his pig shed. So everybody doesn't appreciate him as much as we do. And then I guess in Missouri, I was so excited to find out this little school had a curtain, and I said, well, what happened to it? Where is it? I need to photograph it. And they said, well, go talk to so-and-so. You know, he was a student there. And I said, can you tell me what happened to the curtain? He said, oh, yeah, I know. And I said, well, what happened? He said, well, me and my buddy burned it. I said, you burned it? He said, yeah, the teacher gave it to us and said, take it out and burn it. So, you know. They all weren't as careful as you guys were to save them. And that was when he was a student there. So evidently they didn't use it anymore, and it got in the way, and she wanted it out of the building, so they burned it. So there's all kind of stories like that, too. So if there's not any more questions, I'll turn this back over to Julie.
Okay, thank you again, Maria. Well, it's been a really interesting evening, and I want to thank all of you for coming, and especially the Vry family, of course, for donating it and for sharing their stories tonight. I also want to thank Scott Mason for clearing this out. This was pretty much full of junk just a few days ago. And Miriam I was getting to. Yes, and Scott provided the flowers. And thank you, Kate, for trying to get the PowerPoint going. It wasn't your fault. So anyway, I appreciate everybody for being here. And we do have a hat there if you feel so inclined to give a donation to get this school started, to get the curtain started on its way to being repaired. Thank you very much. Make sure you eat lots of cookies so my family doesn't eat all of them. Okay.